That's cool. Yeah, we'll do what we did with the last one, which is to put the pertinent section of this recording up onto the PSNZ YouTube channel, so that for those that couldn't make it or anybody wants to view back later on, the intention is basically that it's a little bit of an informal sort of gathering with the opportunity of sharing ideas. So what I'd like to start with, I know a couple of you have introduced yourself ahead of time, but if you could, would like to just introduce yourself to the group and tell us what club you're from. For those of you who are presidents or not presidents, or got roped in for the night, welcome. So let's start with Hans.
Hans Bernessi. I'm from the Manawatu Club, the North Otago Photographic Society. I've been elected president again for the second term now. Everybody was busy looking at the carpet. It's pretty clean there now. But yeah, that's about it, I think. Yeah, that's far we'll go for now.
Cool, thanks. It's going to be around Aaron.
I'm Aaron. I'm president of the Manawatu Photographic Society. We're a small South Auckland-based club, and basically we have been quite busy in the background during the last couple of months of lockdown.
Cool, good, awesome. Good to hear. John.
Hi, John Smart from Manawatu Camera Club. I'm just starting on my 4th year as president, so how do you find replacement presidents will be the main topic of discussion, I think, for me. But we're in good heart here in Manawatu as a camera club, so our membership's fairly stable. And we do things fairly traditionally, I think, in terms of camera clubs.
Cool. Mike?
Mike Inouye. I'm president of the Manawatu Camera Club. This is my 2nd year as president. I've been on committee for 12 or 13 years. So, yeah.
Cool, thanks. Joe?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jo Curtis. I'm the immediate past president of Christchurch Photographic Society. The new president was sworn in a couple of weeks ago, and this is the first favour he's asked me because he's off with his wife having celebrating their wedding anniversary, which is not to be missed. So here I am, and it gives me a good opportunity to say thanks to PSNZ for the support they've given our club, which is really active. We meet every week, and there's a lot of photo walks and workshops and field days that we have as well. So it's very, very active. And there's a lot of people involved in holding it together. So we've got, I think, 136 members at the end of the count this year. Yeah, so this is the end of my 2nd term, and we're handing it over to Ian Walls next year, and I'm sure a few of you have met him already. Yes, I'm very pleased that he's going to be at the helm. Great confidence that he is going to make a huge contribution to everybody's photographic prowess in the club, for whether he takes 1 or 2 terms.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Rachel.
Rochelle,
sorry.
Don't worry. Gets everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm Rochelle. I am the vice president of the Manawatu Camera Club.
Cool. No problem. Right. Around Brian.
I'm the vice president of the Cambridge Camera Club, serving my 1st term with them. Been on a committee for the last couple of years, and looking forward to moving forward with Angela at the helm.
Good, good. Okay, Nadine.
Hi, how are you all? My name's Nadine, and I am the president of the Timaru Photography Club. This is my 1st year as president, but I've been on the committee for the past 5. So, yeah, really enjoying being able to meet other like-minded presidents across New Zealand. So, thank you.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Angela.
Hi there, I'm the Cambridge Camera Club president, and I'm just starting my 2nd term, 2nd year, and I've probably been on the committee about possibly 4 years, and fairly new to photography. We just celebrated our end of year awards night, which was very enjoyable, and I have a great committee, but we only meet once a month, and we're quite a small camera club. We're probably low 30s, I'd say.
Okay, cool. Gary, and you'll need to unmute. Can't hear you.
Yeah, someone else is talking. Ah, I'd set on my mute. How about that? So, Gary McClintock, I'm president of the Dunedin Photographic Society. I'd say we're a fairly vibrant group at the moment. I'd say we have probably grown out of the whole COVID lockdown situation. It's been probably a relatively positive experience for us. And we are a group, we merged with the Dunedin Camera Club 2 years ago, sitting at around 70 members at the moment and reasonably active. I've been in this role now for 3 years. This is my third term, and yeah, feeling reasonably positive about things.
Cool, awesome. Right, Carl.
Hi everyone, I'm Carl. I'm the president of the Henderson Photographic Society. We're about 70 members. This is my second and final year as president. We, in our book, we only have to do 2 years at a time. So it's always fun trying to find the next president. I've only been with this club probably about 4 years. Within 6 months of joining, I was vice president, and yeah.
Same story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you got to find the young ones or the people who have just joined, and then get them to be president straight away or vice president, and it makes it a bit easier.
Doug.
Yes, I'm the president of the Gore Camera Club. And yeah, we've got about, I was guessing, around 35 members at present. But yeah, there's a constant turnover of people coming and going.
Yeah. And finally, JJ Bellamy, don't know your full name.
Hi, I'm Jan. I'm the president of the Dargaville Camera Club.
Okay.
And we're probably about 15 members. And I've probably been their president for about 15 years because nobody else will do it.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah,
We've got some common themes. Yeah, I mean, all joking aside, succession planning within clubs is actually a serious issue. You will see when you get camera talk that, and those that are on the Facebook group know, basically within the last month, we've actually lost 3 clubs. So Wellsford, Karori, and Hutt, my own club, I've actually closed down. The first 2 basically ran out of members because I think both of them were actually down to about 4 members. With Hutt, we basically ran out of people who were willing to step up to the management committee. Everybody who was able to do it had either been on it and was effectively burnt out, and those that hadn't been on it didn't really want to step up. So in the end, we held a special general meeting with the idea of maybe that would elicit a move. It didn't, and so this week we had the annual general meeting, and the club closes at the end of the year. Now, this is a club that at 30th of September, in theory, had 31 members. we had close to $18,000 in the bank.
Wow.
So, but it literally was, you know, we had a president who had done 2 terms. The one before that was a newbie who had been brought in and literally put into the president's role. That didn't work. And the one before that had held the role for 5 years, of which was probably about 2 years too many, because by the end, his enthusiasm had actually gone, and it really started to show on what was happening at meetings. And, you know, so yeah, just look at your succession planning, because you know, it will come up and bite you in a big way. This is a club that when we ran national convention in 2019, we had 70 members. So so we had the National Council meeting at the first weekend in November. It was an opportunity to get the whole team together, and we were fortunate that because we've got a lot of new people on the council and they're new to their roles and all this, we were able to get 11 out of the 13 together in Wellington. Our 2 councillors who are Auckland based obviously were stuck in Auckland, but give them their credit. We actually organised a Zoom link into the meeting, and they actually stayed online for 2 days while we held the meeting. So we'd already announced to everybody the 2 outcomes of the meeting that had that were going to have an immediate effect. The first one was that we were instigating a COVID mandate, that basically people had to be vaccinated to attend PSNZ events. The reality was that the larger events that we ran, such as the conferences, the venues that we were going to be in were going to require the mandates anyway. The hotel where National Convention is had already told us that that was what they were looking at. And our smaller events potentially could have got away without them, but we didn't know who we would be dealing with. Certain halls would have their own requirements. And we just decided in the end that it was the safest approach for everybody. We made the announcement now because the majority of PSNZ members are still on an annual renewal cycle that kicks in on the 1st of January. And so if somebody had a strong objection to that rule, we were not going to announce it after they had paid a sub for the year. So we've had one person who has posted on the Facebook group that they're not renewing, and they have subsequently told us that they're not renewing. But everywhere else, it seems that it has been greeted with general sort of approval, or at least resignation, that that's the way that things are going. The second decision that we made that's also been announced, and that was that there are going to be no print competitions connected with the convention. So that takes out the print sections of the national exhibition, and it takes out the 2 inter-clubs that are print based. I think that's the Chance and the Bledisloe, but don't quote me on those ones. It does not include people who want to submit prints for their honours, because although they occur at similar times, we actually have a plan B that can operate with with those honours sets if COVID causes a problem there. But with the national exhibition, we pretty much have a very, very tight time frame from when the competition closes, the selection weekends, to when the convention is actually held. And there was just, I guess, too much opportunity for COVID to put a major spoke, you know, a spanner in the spoke, whatever that analogy, we'd already seen this year that our New Zealand camera books, which were sent out 2 weeks ago, are still being delivered in Auckland and other areas. The couriers are taking a very long time. So the opportunity, the possibility of a regional lockdown is still allowed under the traffic lights. And we didn't want to get into a situation where members had effectively spent the money to get things printed and then for us to have to cancel the competition. That did happen in 2020. I mean, the whole convention got cancelled. The judging had actually happened. So the awards were still given out. We looked at the option of doing what North Shore did last year. For those of you who took part in North Shore last year, what they did was they allowed everybody to actually submit digital images into their print categories. They did the original selection of the digitals. And then when it was worked out that we were opening up and they were going to have the exhibition, then those people who were accepted sent their prints in. So that was a way, actually, it saved people a lot of money because, you didn't go to the cost of printing something that got a not accepted. But we sort of felt that wasn't really appropriate, because when you are judging a print, you're not just judging the image. You're judging how it's been printed, how it's been matted, its overall look. And so it wasn't appropriate to actually do that with to simply take the print across the digital when we already have the digital categories anyway. We wanted to notify that really early, one, to avoid people going to any expenses, but also we were aware that with the interclubs, that because they tend to come in over the time when clubs are not active, that clubs had already started thinking about putting their sets together. And so we wanted to prevent that sort of thing from happening. Okay. Are there any questions on those two before I actually go on to the other ones that you haven't heard about yet? Okay, cool. Right. The other ones are basically, and there is a full, like I say, there is a full report in Camera Talk. We're taking the AGM online, so it will not be part of the National Convention. It'll actually be held the weekend before the National Convention. We received two negative responses to it, both who basically talked about what the organisation was like 30 years ago. And the reality with it was that when we looked at the numbers of people who were attending, it was pretty clear that even the delegates that were going to the convention were voting with their feet. It was the last 4 conventions have not hit 50% of the delegates attending the AGM. So quite clearly to us, we had a better way of delivering it. We could provide democracy to the whole membership, not just those that were at a particular venue. So we were going to do it. We looked at the issue of images being submitted to competitions that have been taken at workshops. We discussed whether we followed what other organizations do, which is a blanket ban, but decided that there was too much variation in the way workshops were operated, that was probably unfair. So what we're doing is there's a slight rewrite to the ethics statement that people will be expected that they've actually followed. And the main one that comes down to the fact is that if you submit an image, that the work is largely yours, that you haven't gone to a workshop where a tutor has essentially provided you with a model, they've set the lights up, they told you what the settings were, and all you've really done is push the button. Because under those circumstances, that's not your image. You know, as with most things in that area, it will come down to people's own ethics. And we're not going into great details in terms of how we'll actually police it. But we will come down very hard if we find on somebody who's actually breached it. So we on COVID front, and particularly relating to clubs, a couple of clubs have asked us whether we're actually producing any COVID guidelines for clubs. If you recall last year when we first came out of level 2, I think, or went into level 2, PSNZ sort of issued some rough guidelines as in terms of what clubs might consider, such as doing away with your supper, social distancing and stuff like that. We discussed it, but then we decided that we're not experts. And so the recommendation that's basically coming back is that you need to have a look at what the relevant traffic light situation is going to be for the area that you're in. For potentially there'll be guidance based on, for those of you who rent facilities, they may have a requirement. Some of your caterers or whatever may have requirements. And then the final one is simply down to what sort of, I guess, risk appetite that your club has, because there may well be clubs that are perfectly happy to operate as an you know, without going through the vaccine mandates type thing, because your numbers are below the various levels at the different grades. But so I guess our advice is actually to go to both the Ministry of Health website, but also today the MB website, which is business.govt.nz, apparently has put out some useful guides to the traffic lights. I've only heard it on the news. I haven't had a chance to go it, but apparently it's a form that you start to fill out, and it will tell you what the requirements are for certain types of situations. But I mean, we've taken the view of the maximum risk avoidance. So, and I think, you know, we probably more so for you guys up in Auckland, because I guess the reality is that you're going to come into the traffic light system probably just as your club's shut down for the year anyway. So we'll have a couple of months before you start up again to actually sort out what you're wanting to do.
Yeah, we're planning on finishing off our final event with us, so doing over Zoom. We just decided, because our venue is still undecided whether opening up or not, whether opening up a room or not. We just decided we're just going to do it online, just to be safe. Policy was better be safe than sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
We had a committee meeting on this subject, but that was taken out of our hands anyway by the club, the Bowls Club, where we now hold our meetings. They've decreed what has to be done and who can go on their property, basically, and so we're basically along the same lines of what we were going to do anyway as a photographic club. But yeah, so we're all got to be vaccinated and everything.
Certainly, from our perspective, it's not an issue for PSNZ. It's an issue for individual societies and clubs. At the end of the day,
yeah,
you have to make your decision based on what your circumstances are.
Yeah.
I can't see why would we be looking for leadership from PSNZ on this. We make our decisions, and as you say, it's partly about what the facilities we're using are about and the situations in our individual areas, and we make those decisions ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, we had the discussion, we were discussing about what we were doing with our particular workshops and events, but we had been asked by a couple of clubs, were we issuing any guidance? So, and I guess that was because it was done in the past, but then the past was a completely different ballpark to what we're in now. Because back then we were eliminating it, now we're living with it. Yeah. Okay, well, that pretty much, there's a couple of other things in there, but you can read Camera Talk because they're more relevant in terms of what we're doing with members rather than the clubs and to hold you up here. But I'd like to actually turn the mics over there to Mike and Rochelle.
Never
From
heard that before.
No, you probably haven't. From Manawatu, and because one of the very first, I think, chats that we had, these guys mentioned how they have grown their membership, and they sort of had a bit of a hybrid model where they had people who were physically coming to meetings, but they also had people who were sort of like distant members or whatever. So I thought it's a good opportunity because ultimately COVID has forced us a little along that way, but potentially, given that we're all trying to actually attract, we keep saying younger members, but it's how do we actually engage with people who now don't necessarily engage in the same way that we used to. They don't come to clubs or thing. And it is sort of a little bit of a carry on from last Zoom session when we had Shannon from WPS talking about how they were doing it. So over to you guys.
Sorry, can I just say, I'll be here for about another 15 minutes and then I need to go. Sorry.
No problem, Gary. Yeah.
No disrespect intended.
That's all right. Yeah, so
I'm just going to share my screen.
yeah, we thought we'd set the scene a bit as to where we were and where we wound up in the end.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of a journey, so the journey is quite interesting in itself.
Cool.
Do you want to share the presentation side, or do you want to share that side, Rochelle?
Oh, have I got them on the wrong way?
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, the journey was something of an interesting one, and talking about succession planning and all that sort of thing as well, and presidents running far too long and losing their desire. Yeah, that's all pretty pertinent to the story, so that's quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on, I'm just going to have to see if I can change them.
Yep. So the basis of our story is basically in 2019, 2020, we had a confused situation where things weren't happening quite as they should. Members were reading that and leaving. We got down to about 26, 27 members. The committee at the time were a bit confused about where they wanted to head, what they wanted to do. Yeah, so that was kind of the situation we were in, which is the absolute perfect time to run into COVID and run into a session where you have no sort of ability to run events to draw new people. And yeah, I don't think anybody really thought about doing virtual meetings at that point. At work, we hadn't thought about doing virtual meetings at that point. We all learned very quickly how that can change. Yeah, I think the theme of our talk of anything is make mistakes, because if you don't make mistakes, you're not doing anything. And don't be afraid of them. They're not going to lead to the end of the world like people think they're going to.
I'm getting there, promise.
That's right.
Right.
Yep, we got there. Okay. So, as I said, to get to our story, we had a falling membership. We had no visible direction, but our main asset was a good, solid core of people who wanted to do better. We're going through the slides.
Right, you tell me when you want to go.
Go up to slide 4.
Thank you.
As your slide. By the way, as I said, my name is Mike Genoway. This is Rochelle Johnston. We kind of, yeah.
We kind of know what we're doing. Cool. So yeah, I guess our journey is a story. So we really wanted to introduce you to the protagonist of our story. This is Mike. Mike is obviously our president, but prior to being president, he was just a committee member and he was a photographer as part of our club. But he certainly has some characteristics that lends himself to being a good protagonist. He's liked by everybody. He likes to share his skills and his knowledge, and he has a real great manner with people, to engage with people. And this is me. I'm Rochelle. These photos actually come straight out of a competition that our club had this year, and the topic was self-portrait. So these were Mike and I's images that we submitted into our competition. And I guess in our club, I'm maybe one of the younger people.
No longer.
No longer. Yep. I'm hanging up that hat. But I'm probably most well known to being very extroverted, very loud, bright, bubbly, fiery, unpredictable, a weirdo. Yeah, I just think outside the box a little bit differently. And what we actually, found through our journey with Camera Club was Mike has been with the club for many, many years. He may want to confess how many years, but I've only been a member of our club for 3 years. And within those 3 years, I've gone from being a club member for about 6 months to being a committee member to being the vice president. So, but Mike and I really connected because we both have a passion for photography. He likes to teach and I like to learn, and I like to prod the bear and get what I can get out of a situation. And actually those qualities have served our club really well. So unfortunately, we are somewhat the catalyst of the change that we've seen in our club. That's not being up ourselves, but we have done a lot. We really found ourselves in a situation, as Mike said, where the club was somewhat in decline and a little bit lost. And Mike and I, through a series of events, started to dream together, and we shared a similar vision and philosophy for the community of what a club is, and decided to take on the challenge, somewhat forced upon us, but readily accepted with open arms, to take on the presidency and vice presidency of our club. And we had big dreams. But I guess the purpose of this quote is to say that, you'll make mistakes, own those mistakes. We've made plenty, but we have seen some of our mistakes come into some fruition. And we built a committee around us that was a committee of purpose. And our first session with our committee that Mike and I had was just me sitting on the floor with some Sharpies and some big A3 pieces of paper. And we asked our committee 3 questions. And that was, what do you like about our club? What don't you like about our club? And if you could do anything in the next 12 months, what would you do? And there were no rules. There was no agenda. It went for hours, that meeting. And we came away with a number of action points. Unbeknownst to our committee, Mike and I had already set a goal for our presidency. And our goal was to take our declining club and reach 50 members in our first term. So part of our first session with our committee was gauging who they were, what they liked, what they didn't like, where their vision was for our club, and then we kind of used those threads to start weaving the basket that we've made ourselves. And then what happened was this. Not a new experience for any of us.
Yeah. So we then asked our question, the question I think every person asked it themselves in that time, where to from here? And I guess there's two ways you can take it. You can take it as a threat, or you can take it as an opportunity. And I've already heard tonight that one of the other clubs have seen it as an opportunity as well. Yeah, it certainly looked pretty bad early on. But on the other side, there was a lot of people who were bored. And that was an opportunity. I worked through lockdown. I've worked through every lockdown. And so I didn't necessarily feel bored. In fact, I felt overworked most of the time. But I knew that there was a lot of our club members that were hurting at the time, who were frustrated, who wanted something to distract themselves with. So we sort of went from there. And yeah, thanks, one. And I decided to try something brand new. I work in IT, so that's my side. But not every IT person is a genius at video and web and everything else. We have our own skills. And I thought, if these people are bored and if these people want something to do, I'll make something very short and very quick that will get them through a few days. And I put together a little video of me, how I went about creating an image that got honours in the previous competition. Now, let's be honest, it was awful. It was small, it was badly thought out. It actually inspired people to do the thing, which was cool. And I saw lots of interesting examples afterwards. So it was effective, but it was two other things. It was timely and it was the start of something new. And that's one thing I really appreciated about it. Now, we all know about Zoom. We all know about the Muppet wall and everyone sitting there doing their own thing. I think growing up in the 70s, if I'd thought the Muppet wall was a real thing, that would have been quite a weird concept. But yeah, these kind of tools exist for a reason, and they fulfill those reasons when used, at least with intention. Now, as most of you would know, educating your members into how to use these kind of tools can be a battle on its own. Some clubs probably gave up at that point and just said, we'll get back to you when we can be meeting face to face. Others would have had various success. We actually found it very successful. Our normal sort of club meetings would be somewhere in the range of about 25 to 30 for a competition night, and somewhere between 10 and 15 for a practical night. We found, and we ran a lot of nights. We probably did one a week for a good number of months. And we found the average attendance to being in the 35s to 40s range.
So some weeks we would have 3
and
Zooms.
We had people asking if they could bring friends along and do all those kind of things, which was great. It was a way of getting other people interested because they were bored. And there's only so much Netflix you can watch. There's only so many other things. The competitions were interesting because, of course, we had to educate the judges, but we got there. Yep. The biggest thing that we didn't realize we were doing was that people could see it wasn't easy. They could see we were trying our best. Everyone was trying to cope the best they were, and we were no different. And they respected that. And as I said, people came along that were new. It was great. It was great to see that happen. People inviting their friends, people turning up to all these meetings, laughing, joking, chatting away. It was good. There was a new vibe to this this environment, which was good.
Yeah, I mean, it gave us a window into each other's lives as
Next
well.
slide, Michelle.
Not next slide.
And that emboldened us to be ready to make more mistakes, because we realized it didn't lead to disaster, it led to growth. And it still does. There's no changing this yet. Hearing some of those numbers I heard before, 136 people, 70 people, 80 people. A couple of years ago, we'd looked at those numbers and gone, we will never get that high. Now it's just a matter of when, basically, I think. We don't want to be too big. I think being in the 60s to 80s is quite a nice range. So yeah, that's quite good. And yeah, the simple thing we now run by is, if you can learn, you can improve. Are we perfect? Not at all, but the club really appreciates the effort. It's a good club.
Okay, so during lockdown, we moved
Are
to.
you muted, Rochelle?
Oh, am I? Oh, how did that? No, I'm not.
Okay,
I can
Rochelle,
hear.
Oh, you can
Mike
hear?
has died.
I can hear. Yep.
We moved to a 100% digital platform. During those months, we were all on Zoom. We asked members to participate in discussions. We led panel discussions, which was quite interesting on Zoom. People who never had the confidence to speak in public, for some reason behind their desks, was much more confident. And so we got a chance to hear from people that were a little bit more reserved and hear their opinions, which was really, really encouraging. We recorded them. They went up on YouTube, just like these do here, which gave people the chance to re-watch them, which was good. Even with competitions where you sometimes think, oh, what did that judge say about my image? I can't remember. You can go back and watch the video now and actually see that. Yeah. We asked our members what they wanted to learn and we taught them. If somebody said, I'm struggling with this part of Lightroom, there was a mini Zoom that was run on that part of that. We shoulder tapped professionals, judges, anyone we could find to help put more content out there. That was rather cool. The new committee, sort of, I suppose the key tenets we have is that culture is vital. One of our big mottos was, as much as we can, camera in hand. Unfortunately, COVID tends to have a bit of a thing to say about that, but we do our best. We need to support those who cannot attend in person. That was one of the big lessons we learned from COVID, was that we started getting members from 2, 3, up to 11 hours away by car. And we're not going to expect anyone to drive 11 hours to a camera club meeting. And that was, yeah, that was good. There are a lot of isolated communities out there that have broadband, but don't have a camera club. And so that was really cool. And they have their own strengths and everything else to do. But now that we're coming out of COVID, we decided that it was important to work on that culture even more. And so we traded our dilapidated swimming club rooms, where it was, yeah, pretty basic. In winter it was cold and in summer it was hot, and the swim club sometimes thought they owned the place, and therefore we had to run our meetings at different times so they could be happy. Instead, we moved into the Square Edge Art Centre in the middle of town. It gave us far better access to parking. It was actually cheaper. You can use the rooms on a time-by-time basis and only pay what you use, and the room rental was good. So in the end, we saved money. We became part of a creative community where people could walk in on a Monday night and see these great artworks on the wall and think, oh, that's pretty cool, and get a little bit inspired as they walk to a meeting. Yeah, so that was really important for us. We kind of had two major decisions that we decided to take at this point for this coming year. So this is 2021. And this is one of those topics we hear a lot about and most people struggle to deal with. The first cab off the rank was the debate between a print competition and a DPI competition. And we've been running those side by side for decades. And the prints were slowly declining into nowhere. We had our B grade print cup won by one person who entered one image. And that was not what it was intended to do. So we took the brave and I think necessary decision to combine them as one competition. So prints and DPIs together being done as images. And of course, the logical worry then is, well, everyone will then start submitting DPIs because they're easier and because they, just there's a perception that would happen. We actually found the opposite. This coming end of year competition will have the most amount of prints we've ever had in a print competition in the last 15 to 20 years. So it's reversed the trend quite dramatically the other way, because people don't have to commit to a year-long entering of prints. They can pick and choose as they go, and they can develop their skills as that happens.
And we supported our members.
And we all have those images where we think that looks better as a DPI or that looks better as a print. And it allows you to choose what you want to do. The second decision we took as a committee was to ditch the assignment style of the topic and instead allow people to work on projects and building confidence and expressing themselves against the brief. So we still have a brief, but it's a couple of words. It's not a full paragraph with a full explanation around it and all those things. And we found that for new people, that works so much better. They're so much more keen on entering something. They're so much more keen on taking a risk. In some ways, the long briefs kind of favor the people who have been at club longer and exclude the people who have been there shorter. So it's been interesting watching that take hold. Events, we mentioned there that our new motto has been camera in hand. Practicals and outings were used to support topics. So we've already mentioned about the fact that we did self-portraits. We had a night on creating self-portraits, and they were very varied and very expressive. So it was interesting to see how that influenced the final night, which was great. And our main thing was just to keep reinforcing, as those new people come in, having experienced people show them what to do, give them tips, give them hints, panels to tell stories or discuss things, how to build websites, all kinds of things. And we even had a print workshop with a really good printer in Palms North, where we spent half a day learning how to print. So all these things kind of build on themselves, which is really, really encouraging to see and gives a nice vitalness to the club. It was so interesting. Our first event post-lockdown, we kind of wondered how many people would feel that they wanted to take that risk. There was always that tension around it. It was amazing. We had so many members come out to that first event, and they just didn't go to that part. They then went out to other areas together and photographed the rest of the afternoon and evening away, and really enjoyed the whole being back as a club. Even with new members who had never been there before, they found it such an encouraging experience. Building culture. We are lucky to have people that are quite dedicated. We ran a club trip for 20 people during the early spring last year. and we ran it up to Mount Ruapehu, and that was just before Mount Ruapehu was closed to people, or it was 100 people on the mountain at any one time, I think it was. So we photographed around Mount Ruapehu for that time. And it was really interesting to see a person take the risk to drive an extra 2 hours to the trip. So this was in Ruapehu, near Mount Ruapehu, and they drove from a place called Akatio, which for those people who don't know where Akatio is, I didn't either. It's about an hour south of Dannevirke, about 20 k's north of Castle Point. Okay. So for her first club meeting, she drove nearly 5 hours. So that was pretty impressive. Apparently she almost turned around and walked out again, but yeah, lifted up her courage and went in. We also had another problem, which was our normal mid-year club dinner fell victim to COVID. So we put our thinking caps on and discussed what we could do. We ran our first end of year function. It's not really our first end of year function because we've always had an award ceremony, but it was an end of year function with a dinner, with all the other trappings that go with that. And one of our members is a very good cook, and she did all the catering for us, which was cool. We had the problem I think everyone would have had when going back to lockdowns, which was going into an environment where you didn't always feel safe because of the news, particularly people at higher risk, so people with medical conditions and so forth. They didn't feel confident to come out. So we tried the Zoom meeting idea to extend it to live Zoom meetings, and didn't find that the easiest to do. We can do it, but it's just not as easy as we'd like. So what we do now is record all the meetings and then post the videos up onto YouTube over the next few days. This mixed mode idea means that we've kept all of the people that were coming from a distance, and that's roughly about 1/5 of the club. Keep them involved in the meetings, keep them submitting. We've had more people entering competitions this year than ever before, which has been really encouraging. And we've had more new people entering competitions, which is great. Our biggest problem at the moment is our top grade is getting over full. It's not a bad problem to have. So just to recap, our end of year event that I mentioned, we saw 35 attend the first one. That's up to 39 for the second one. So that's obviously gone well. We've had very interesting and hotly contested grades all throughout. We have successfully undertaken a minimum of 3 Zooms a month during lockdown. Mostly it was 4. We had the successful trip to Tongariro National Park. The judges have been engaged and learning our new definitions. And the biggest thing I think from the 2020 was learning who our members were. We had a lot of time to get to know each other and really get to understand each other, which was really, really good. And that's helped a lot of other things. And that's helped them form new networks in the club, and that ties the club nicely together. It makes things a lot better. And events are always well attended now, which is really, really good. Our trip this year was to Akatio, and we put the price up because we wanted one of the comments about the trip last year was that the accommodation could have been better, so we paid a little bit more for a better accommodation, and we sold out the 20 spaces in, was it 5 days?
Yeah, a week.
4 or 5 days. So the appetite for people to go, even in this very risk averse last 2 years, was like, I'm in. It's cool. And by the end of 2020, we exceeded our goal of 50 members. So that was really cool. To turn a club from 27 members going downwards to 50 members going upwards is a really nice thing to do. Yeah, 2020 lockdowns, 2021 lockdowns and traffic lights. The culture of the club was prepared for the latest lockdown, which was good. And people knew what to do straight away, so there wasn't any problems there. There's always a longing to be meeting face to face, but yeah, there are restrictions that we have to live with. We still ran our club trip, which was good, and we were running a second party, so that's even better. The best part of the whole thing, though, is the culture. People are really engaging with each other, which is really great to see. And we've had members doing their first solo exhibitions. We've been invited by the library to decorate a large walk-through gallery with our images, and that's happened 3 times over this year, and we'll have it one more time. The growth has been really interesting to see, seeing people who were getting accepted only a year ago getting honors is really exciting to see. As I said, our biggest problem at the moment is our highest grade is getting fuller and fuller. To keep it going, we've introduced special interest groups now, and we'll see how they pan out, so that will be interesting to watch. In summary, I think the key things here are understand what your people want to be part of, why people want to be part of your club. The tools are there. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Be more afraid of becoming irrelevant. Camera in hand beats a PowerPoint. Meet people where they are, not where you're comfortable. And people come to us to grow, have a good time, and be encouraged. And then the last slide is, yeah, the people that went on the trip.
That's us. Well, part of us.
Next slide.
And we're done.
I think Rochelle's frozen.
Thank you.
I think we've got we've lost Mike camera. We might be having some internet problems at various places.
Mm. Can you hear me all right now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
It's the videos that have Mike's video seems to have
frozen
gone away.
If you guys can still hear me, I'm frozen at the moment. Rochelle, do you want to take over it all?
Yeah, well, that's pretty much our presentation, but I really feel like we didn't do anything particularly spectacular, but what we did do was we really focused on our members during a really difficult time. There were quite a few of us who were working during lockdown, but we also had the space to...
So now the more interesting part of the whole night is your questions.
We're just talking over the top of each other. We had the space to be innovative, to think outside the box. And that was really important for us to do. And Mike and I had gone in with a vision to change, and change did happen. And I think that if you want to change and if you want to grow, you will carry your members with you. We actually haven't lost any members since we started our journey, where we've pushed people to go digital, we've pushed people to go online. We stopped doing the traditional newsletter. We push out everything via email. So sometimes people will get 3 emails a week, but there's sort of this consistent communication going on. But our members know each other. We have a Facebook page where someone will say, I'm going to the beach tomorrow, and a small group will form because they know each other. And that was probably the biggest change. If you've got an event or an outing going and you've got a bunch of people who don't know each other, they don't hang around. You've got to do some relationship building before you get to that point. So yeah, hopefully that tells you a little bit about the journey that we've been on, and we're happy to answer questions.
That's great. Has anybody got any questions?
Yeah, who's that hanging on the door behind her?
Right.
Obviously an old member there.
So,
a naughty one.
So this lovely specimen here, I have 2 of these. Their names are Daryl and Dylan. They feature quite a lot, don't they, Mike, in my photos? And this with my photography, I'm getting more into tactile creativity.
Oh, yeah.
So this is something else that we encouraged our members to do. We moved into a creative space because we wanted our members to start to think about art and how storytelling can be told in many different forms, mediums. We can learn from other creative processes and to be exposed to that and to be challenged to that. So we did outings to like the Van Gogh display in Wellington. We went down to the Surrealist exhibition down at Te Papa. You know, we started doing sessions where we started to introduce concepts that were coming out of dance and art and, you know, like books. What are we reading? What music are we listening to? How does that feed our creativity? And so for me, I like to do a little bit of weird and wonderful. I'm currently making a dress out of flowers. That's what my lovely model in the back is.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And so, you know, we actually started to expand our membership's minds as well, I feel like, because there were no rules with our competition briefs anymore. Self-portraiture was the most mind-expanding thing, I think, for our membership this year, because we all had to become the model in front of the camera and behind the camera, and you were thinking about different things at a time, but you started thinking about the story you wanted to tell about who you are. And it's really simple to do that when you know who you are, but if you've got a model and you're trying to teach that model to be something that they're not necessarily naturally doing, or you know, taking somebody out to do landscape portraiture and saying what's the feeling that you're trying to evoke from this image, that can be a little bit abstract to some people, but make them take a photo of themselves. They'll hate it. Our members hated it, didn't they, Mike? They literally
So
every week we talked about it.
Is this done like on a club night or a workshop?
Oh, we do everything. We did practicals where it was camera in hand, where we gave them tools and tips on how to do self-portrait. You know, we did Zoom online sessions where we talked about what self-portraiture could be. You know, we encourage people to go and look on Pinterest, you know, Google things, put in self-portrait and see what, you know, we don't want to put people into boxes. We want people to put themselves in their own boxes and break out of those boxes if they want to. And that was a part of us knowing who our members were. Previously, when we were giving a brief around the topic, people were literally delivering what the within the boundaries, within the scope, and there was not a lot of creativity bubbling to the surface.
Yeah.
But you take that away. So, you know, what else did we have? We had reflection was a topic this year. You could interpret that literally. You could literally take a photo of a reflection of something. But because we didn't provide a brief of what reflection was, we had people go out and do all kinds of wonderful things, like taking a picture of a moment that had happened in their life that they'd observed and reflecting upon that moment. You know, like it just, and we started to pull and tease those threads of who our members are as photographers and where they want to go. And literally, like, I think Mike and I first lockdown, if anybody said that they wanted to know something, we went and we made that happen online. If anybody asked anything, didn't matter what it was, if they needed help with blending in Photoshop, we did a session on that. We had a topic of abstract, and we had a panel session of 3 members who had 3 different ideas of what is abstract. And I think we spent about 2 hours talking about what is abstract, and everybody left still not being clear as to what abstract was, but that was wonderful. We had discussion. It wasn't just one person's perspective. And that really was a big catalyst of change. We had interesting comments from judges who loved it. Some then came in and said, actually, it would be great if you could provide some commentary around how I'm supposed to interpret some of these images. And so we tried to do that. And then we got judges who just blatantly said, oh, I didn't look at the comments. So, you know, this is not a silver bullet. We've learned that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But our goal was, if we're going to deliver a club that people are going to turn up to, take a risk and turn up, we've got to deliver what they want. So what do they want? And if we don't know who they are, they're not going to tell us what they want, or we're not going to have an idea of where people are at. And we've got 3 grades, B grade, A grade, and M grade. And Mike and I sat down and said, we've got this wonderful M grade who have all this knowledge and experience. We need to be shoulder tapping those guys to turn up and give back to the community that is club. And, you know, some of them happily came and did presentations on their photo journey, and we learned heaps about those people. You know, one of our members picked up a camera because his brother was a fantastic artist and sculptor, and he needed to compete somehow with his brother for approval from his parents, you know, and you're like, cool, we're getting to know who you are as a person, but what's motivated you. And then they talk about the different cameras that they've held. You know, a lot of our older members have still got their old cameras, you know, film cameras, and the process that they went through. You know, it was very cool for someone like me who can find relating to an older person quite difficult. Yeah. But then seeing photos of them growing up and, like, you know, before I was born was super cool because I got to know them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thanks for that, Rochelle.
That's all right. So I'm very passionate about this.
Yeah, it shows. Any other questions? So I've got a couple. You guys say that you've now got members from all over the place, including some in the South Island. If you've got members that are actually in areas where there are camera clubs, are you saying to them, hey, you might want to, you know, go to these guys as well? Or
yeah,
we certainly, the one that is in down south is actually a member of the camera club there as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that person was a committee member in our club for many years, has a great deal of connection with our club, and was sad to say goodbye. And then a year later didn't have to, which was quite cool.
Right, that's cool.
But yeah, most of our people that we're talking about are people that there are no clubs near. So Akatea Beach, there are no clubs near Akatea Beach. There's barely anything near Akatea Beach. Martin is another one, halfway between Wanganui and Palms North.
Yeah, Woodville.
So which one do you go to? Yeah.
So also for some of our members driving from those locations to get to us, some of our meetings can go quite late. You know, we can still be there gas bagging at 10 o'clock at night, and then they've still got another hour drive to get home. And so providing an online platform means that they can still participate, and we don't have to worry about their well-being driving to and from a location. You know, if somebody's unwell, but they can still sit and listen to the judging. Yeah, it's fantastic. If you're traveling, so, you know, a lot of us have jobs and, you know, we go away and have family commitments, you still feel like you're part of the club because you're hearing what everybody else is hearing. It is a bit different now. We're not live streaming, but we try and post within 1 to 2 days after the event so that it's fresh. We do have competitive people, so they want to know what their marks are so that they can see, you know, work out the points that they're getting to see where they fit on the points table. And that's been a wonderful aspect to our competitions too, that we have friendly competition. I say friendly. You know.
So I was interested in your comment that your existing members are still members, because one of the problems that a lot of clubs face is that they do have a core of long-standing members who, quite frankly, are perfectly happy with the way it's operating, and they really don't want other people coming in and disrupting their little social group. Did you actually have any sort of resistance?
I actually think this is interesting because those people that you're mentioning there as being more likely to be wanting to continue the direction actually were some of the change agents that really leapt on when me and Rochelle started to push the ideas out there. The idea of moving to a image competition rather than a DPI or film was actually by one of those members who'd been around for a good while and was an avid printer. So if anyone's going to come out and say, let's move away from that idea, that was the last person I expected to say that. But conversely, he was the one most passionate about it.
I'm sure there will have been people who are naysayers. They wouldn't have said it to our faces. I think that they wouldn't have said it to me because I just wouldn't have put up with it. You know, like, do you want your club to die? That's probably what I would have said to them. This club will die. We are losing members. How, you know, if we keep on repeating what we are doing, we will die. And I personally joined a camera club to learn, but I have a fundamental value of, as part of a club, I'm part of a community, and it takes everybody to run a community. So if I expect to take out of the community, I need to put back into the community. So get on board, get in the waka, row the ship, or get out. Because we don't need that. Now, we do have some members who don't put in as much effort as others, and that's okay. We've got enough people who are motivated. We've got new life and new blood coming in who will pick up that slack. But that was part of the culture change that Mike and I wanted to do, was to say, Mike and I are not the important people in our camera club. Yeah, we've got fancy titles. We don't really know what they mean, Mike? We're just kind of the people. But you know, we will steer the helm if we have to, and we were very united on what we wanted for our club. And I think through sheer, I know, personality and temperament, we just took people with us. I think
you
that
can't underestimate that that capital we bought by just keeping things going during lockdown meant that we dragged people into what we wanted to do. And then they came over to what we want, our thinking as well, which was good to see. It's really interesting to see how many people here, how many clubs do annual trips every year?
Yep, we do.
So about a third, maybe a half. I find that those particular things are the most important parts of the club. If you can get the people together for a good chunk of days, and they can talk and chat and get to know each other as people and as photographers, have a laugh, get up at 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning, survive the weekend and go home not too badly off, then they have some kind of new camaraderie with each other. That really helps the club glue together. Yeah. And we have a good bunch of people that like to have a laugh. So that tends to draw people into the environment, which is nice.
So I guess, I mean, if I had to pull one thread that pulled it all together, people first, your members first. Having your camera in hand is great, and having Zooms and things like that. But if you don't know your people and they've got no relationships with each other, what's making them turn up? You know, I've only been a member of our camera club for 3 years, and in those 3 years, I've gone from member to being on committee to being the vice president for 2 years. But I said to Mike, if I had not become friends with him, I would have left our club. I would have left our club the first year, because it was not offering me anything as a new photographer. I literally brought a camera in January, secondhand, and went to the first meeting in February. I would have been gone by April had I not met Mike. And so when I joined committee, I joined the committee, and the current president at the time, I said to her, I'm going to bring in my voice of a new person coming in, because my experience was not fantastic. And we had people who joined the same time as me who just didn't come back. You know, and nobody had even stopped to ask those people, to follow up with those people. Why did you leave? And when we finally did that, one of them just said, oh, I just found the judging so difficult and harsh, and I, wasn't expecting someone to be so critical about the feedback. And we're like, wow, we can wrap around our, newbies, our B graders. We can talk to our judges about the B graders are new entrants, that they're learners, constructive criticism, be gentle with them. We want to foster their enthusiasm. We don't want to trample all over them. Masters are completely different, by all means, rip them to shreds.
They do.
What do you tell your judges when they don't think the person has actually got the topic? Is that a not accepted?
We don't have not accepteds for anything in B grade. That's strictly not allowed. We try and encourage the judge to have as open a mind as possible. And we encourage them to be as supportive as possible to B graders, to try and encourage them to grow. Most of our B graders are only around for 1 year before they go into A grade. Maybe the odd one will take 2 years. So they really are new. They really don't know what they're doing. Try to be kind to them.
And that's the role of the master's grade as well. So say, when we've got new people, we'll tap our masters and say, that's a new person over there, get to know them. You share, you wrap around them, and we spend a lot of time saying, our competitions are for learning. It's a teaching instrument. It's not a soul destroying instrument, and our judges will stand up and say, this is only my opinion. And it is a really hard lesson. It can be soul destroying to have an image you love then ripped apart by a judge, and you don't understand half the language that judge is using. So this last year we've done a bit of work with our judge selection, and our competition secretary manages all of the appointment of judges and giving them the brief. But this year I don't think we had any unaccepted images. It's very difficult.
Not that I remember.
It's very difficult to not accept an image when there is no brief as to how you interpret and apply the topic.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to how the topic. And the reason I'm asking this is from two personal ones. One is I've actually agreed with Maureen that I'm going to judge one of your competitions next year. But the second one is actually I've assessed images for a club that I'm not going to mention. And I'm going to be very surprised to see what the feedback is, because they had a rule that said if I did not feel that they had got the set topic, then it was not accepted. And I not accepted 11 out of 21 of their A grade images, including images where in my feedback, I had actually said to them, if you had entered this image into either the open grade or the creative grade that they had, it would have got honours. But you have a very specific topic that actually has a dictionary definition on it. And your image did not meet that definition.
And that's how we were. So that's how we did our competitions previously. And we found that what our members were serving up were images that we didn't know who the photographer was. They were serving the judge. They weren't serving themselves. There was no individual voice in that image. And so we talked about this in great detail and depth as a committee and said, let's try it for a year. Let's see what happens if we take the risk of throwing out the brief, throwing out the definition, and just giving them a topic. And see what happens. Let's get the feedback from the judges. Let's get the feedback from the members. And I think the images really speak for themselves. So if you get an opportunity, we have a gallery on our website, and you can go on and have a look at the images that have been submitted over the last few years. And I personally think that it has enabled the committee to know who our members are, their style of photography, what they're interested in, who they are, their voice, their creativity, their storytelling, you know, and it's helped us to go, these are areas, you know, you can look at one person's image and go, that's amazing. Now, how did you do that? And we had one judge who gave critical feedback one night, and then he said, I've actually got my laptop here with Photoshop on it. Can I show you what I meant if you had made these changes? And he actually physically showed us some of his critical feedback if we had made those changes, what our image would look like. And that just was awesome. We're going to have that judge back to come and do a workshop with us. Our members loved it, that they could see exactly what that critical feedback meant for their image. To me, it's not, that wasn't a mistake. We haven't failed in that. It's just an adventure that we've taken, really. It's not for everyone. Some people
I guess the thing we went back to was, what is a competition for? Is a competition for to see who gets the most amount of points in a year? Is a competition for training our photographers to shoot to a brief like a professional would? Is our competitions for those people with the long history who know what words mean and know previous examples and everything else to have an advantage, or is it to develop people? And if you say develop people, then you can't speak in a language they don't understand. They just won't get it. They won't understand. And then we lose these B graders coming through for the first time, and they don't make it through into any other grade. They don't learn about these things, and they become disenfranchised, basically.
Yeah, we had a wonderful workshop this year, actually, like an introduction to the Manawatu Camera Club, and we invited everybody to bring their camera with them. And then we broke our membership up into tables as per brand of camera that they had. And then they sat at a table with a mixture of new people who just purchased their first camera, with people who are masters who have fantastic camera kits, and we literally made them sit with their cameras and go through every setting on their camera on their tables. And it was wonderful. You know, we had people at tables who didn't know what ISO is, what aperture is. They were still, shooting in auto, how to get into manual, what do all those different functions on the dial mean. And it was awesome to see that.
Did you have anybody who was on a table by themselves?
No.
Nope.
No, and
we marketed that meeting as being, if you're interested in learning about the camera club, come along.
Right.
If you're interested in your first time here and whatever else, we had 38 people turn up to the event. That's most of our club as far as the active people, because they thought, the new people thought, great, we can actually learn about our cameras, learn about stuff like that. The older
different
people,
lenses, wasn't it?
Yeah, we asked them the question of, what do you want from club? What would you like to see us do? What would you like to see us do differently? And how about competitions? How do you see competitions? What are you confused about with competitions? There was lots of questions out there from people we thought knew more. So never assume.
That's cool. That's cool, guys. Well, we're almost at 9:30.
Yep. One quick question.
Yep.
Do you still have trophies at the end of the year?
We have currently 29 trophies and certificates to award. So yes.
So you actually see it. So even though your brief is very short, you still have your set subjects to match.
Yep. And we have had, the M grade has been a grade where if you don't get honours on a regular basis, you just don't get anywhere. So it's been really interesting to see the ability to step up. It gets brutal.
So to give you an example, the 4 topics that I was given a choice to choose from, and I'm not going to say which one I chose, silhouette, parallel lines, an odd couple, a splash of color. So, they're pretty much open to quite wide interpretation.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
Um,
and these are easy subjects. This year we had a lot harder, didn't we, Mike? We did not make it easy for judges or our members.
A couple of years ago, we had an egg. That was good fun.
Yeah. Do you expect your members to actually shoot to the topic or go back into the catalogue
Either or.
overall?
We
Okay.
prefer them to shoot to the topic
Mm.
and use it as a learning experience. I think most do. But there will always be someone who's running late on time and would prefer to use it from catalogue.
We do have rules around it, so you can't submit an image more than twice.
Okay, cool. Well, if nobody else has any other questions, I want to thank Mike and Rochelle for the presentation tonight and actually taking the time to put something together that's been most appreciative. And I think, you know, we will record this and we'll make it available to the rest of PSNZ presidents who couldn't make it tonight. I had quite a number of apologies, but that has been fantastic. I might have a look at your website because, as I said, my club's disappearing. So I've got to figure out what club I want to belong to. So
we're not that far away from the hub.
I know, you know.
With the new motorway, an hour and a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, I've started a new job a fortnight ago, and we've got an office in Palmerston North, so I could combine it with a visit. Yeah. Okay. Well, if as one last opportunity, if anybody's got any questions of these guys or of me or of anybody wants to say anything else.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks to Mike and Rochelle. Great to hear you guys, and things obviously changed a bit since I used to come over to the Lido room. So I'm keen to come over to your Square Ridge place and join a meeting sometime next year. I know I've been saying that, but next year I better make it happen.
You can always come over to the end of year awards. We're doing that in a week and a bit's time.
What day is it on, Mike?
It's on Sunday the 12th.
Right, I'll write that down. Our awards night's on the 8th, but we're not quite sure. We think Wanganui will be in the red traffic lights by then, so we're not quite sure how we'll do it yet. But
we're orange, but because we're using the vaccine mandate, we should be fine.
Yeah, we're likely to use the vaccine mandate too. But 12th, yes, no, I'll bear that in mind. But if not, I'll pop over next year sometime for sure.
Yeah, it'll be what time do you think the awards will start, Rochelle? 7ish?
Yeah, probably about 7.
Yeah.
Right.
That's at Square Ridge, but get a hold of me if you want to know details.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for coming in tonight. I hope that you guys have been finding these sessions useful. I have been receiving some quite positive comments back, so that's pleasing. We won't start them again next year until probably mid to late February, because let people go away on holidays, clubs shut down for most of January anyway. Just, I guess, a couple of things just to watch out for is that the interclubs will be opening very shortly, although they won't close until February-ish. National exhibition entries will open, I think, about mid-January. For those of you, your club members who are interested in the PSNZ convention, which is being held in Rotorua in April, we're actually not opening registrations for that until around the 1st of February. So we have pulled that back again. Again, that is just a certainty thing with COVID. We don't, we've effectively paid a lot of the deposits already because the convention got pushed back a year. So it's not like we need a lot of money in the bank pre-Christmas like what used to happen with the conventions. Finally, I just wish you guys a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and get out there and do a lot of snapping.
The same to you, Paul, and thanks for that. Nadine,
Yeah,
are you Timaru Camera Club?
yes, I am. Yep.
Paul?
Yep.
Could you send Nadine my email address? Because we've been trying to contact you to do things together with us down here in North
Yeah.
Otago and Oamaru.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, so if you could just give Nadine my email address, Paul.
Hans, do you want to just put it in the chat?
Yeah.
Down the bottom of the screen, you see the chat window.
Yeah, it's one eye, yeah.
Type it in there, then Nadine will actually see it, but I'll also record it for the
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
If you're traveling through the Manawatu over Christmas, New Year's, if you are brave enough to travel, drop us a line. If you're stopping and you want to have some photo experiences, you know, we're always up for that. We technically shut down, but we've actually got outings planned for January in our club, and then we have a big opening event that we do every year in February as well. So if you're coming through the Manawatu, we'd love to see you. Come and hang out with us. We're very active, doing lots of different things. Our members were out with a fire spinner last week, so we can always set up some cool stuff for you to do too.
Cool, awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Mhm.
Okay, guys. Well, good night and enjoy your weekends. And
Good night. Thanks, everyone.
All the best.
Good
Merry
night.
Christmas.
Bye.
Merry Christmas to you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers. Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thank you.